Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now I've been looking for a piece suitable to use with resin for quite a while. Then I suddenly remembered I had this. You may remember this from a lamp I made from a piece of yew about 6 months ago. And this was the other half of the piece of yew that we used. It's got some wonderful grain in here, and I think it's going to be an ideal resin project. The reason why I say that is because there's too much going on in terms of gaps for us to easily make a successful bowl. So I think it might be fun to use this to make a resin project. Now, what I want to do is to cut a circle blank from this. And given that we've got a lot of cracking going on at the ends, both ends, I think I'm going to take a lump out of the middle. So what I've got is about a 200mm or 8-inch disc, which I'm going to position somewhere in the middle, I think. How would that do? I should do it. We'll get it onto the bandsaw, cut this out, and then get it onto the lathe so we can fine tune it to the right size. You'll see why in a second. Right, let's cut this out. Okay, so there's our blank, horribly cut out, but it'll do for now. So what I'm going to do is put our template back on there, mark the center, and then we're going to use a worm screw to mount it onto the lathe. What we're going to try and do is get this perfectly round so it fits nice and easily into our mold. Okay, we're nice and safely on the lathe. What we have to do now is turn this round so it fits into the mold I've already made. This is 200mm across, which is about 8 inches. And if we can get this nice and round, hopefully it'll fit in there nice and snugly. Okay, I've got a couple of big edges like there to take off first before we can start working to get this round. But hopefully it won't take too long. We're going to start turning at 680 RPM. Face shield will definitely be on, and we're going to start off with 1/2 inch ball gouge. Okay, I've stopped for a second just to put a glove on this hand because some of the chips coming off this area here are hurting a little bit. Okay, I'm not quite hitting all the way around yet, but I just want to offer up our mould just to make sure that we're, yeah, still nowhere near. That's all right. I'd hate to go too far and not be able to get the wood back, so we'll keep on going. Okay, right, we're getting very close. Just this bottom section to do, and then we're almost ready for the next stage. Perfect. Excellent. Right. Before I take it off the lathe, I'm just going to remove all the bark I can, because we can't have this in there when it's curing with resin, because it'll infect the resin with lots of loose flaky bits, and also there is a chance of making it unstable in terms of flying apart. So I'll just drag all that out. Okay, that was a load of fun. So we can now remove this. We're going to set up ready, just pour some resin. Okay, I think we've got everything we need now to start mixing up and pouring resin. Now, the mold I made up earlier is just a piece of 200mm tube with a plastic bottom cut out on the laser and then glued into the base. It's been CA glued, it's been sealed, it was then sealed on the outside and then covered in cling films. So hopefully this is not going to leak in any way. Okay, so first of all we need to put our blank in, so it's all ready. I'm just going to put a bit of hot glue in the bottom just to hold it firmly in place. It's quite a heavy wood and I don't think it's going to be a problem, but it's always better to be safe rather than sorry. Perfect. Okay, we'll move this out of the way so we can start mixing the resin. Okay, so the resin we're going to use for this one is the Lathe Resin Deep Pour Epoxy Resin. The reason for using this one, because it's nice and thin, it mixes easily and it'll allow us to get a good depth on the pour without overheating or anything like that. Now we're initially going to mix up 3 lots of 450 millilitres, which I think should be enough in total. It's a 2-part epoxy, which means that we're going to have to put 300 ml in each cup and then 400 ml of part B on top. Okay, now looking at what I've got there, I think I'm going to do one more just to be on the safe side. Okay, that's all the resin we're going to need mixed, hopefully. Now, it's my intention to have the main base colour of black for this piece, but I do want to have some small accents in there of colour which will hopefully complement the yew wood. So we're also going to put in tangerine, wine and dark violet. These are the Lathe Resin mica powders. Now I'm just going to mix up one of these so I can decant a small piece of this into these 3 cups I've got for mixing with other colours, and then we can dye these black. Okay, I don't need an awful lot. Like I say, it's just going to be an accent colour. I'll leave those for a moment. Now for the rest of this resin, we're going to turn it black and we're going to be using the Lathe Resin Black Epoxy Resin Pigment Paste. Now this is a concentrated black, which I am assured it will give us a wonderful deep black without having to use too much. Right, I've never used this before, so let's see how it does. I'll just do a couple of drops in this one. Well, it's not really a drop, is it? I'll give one little squirt in there. Okay, that's not bad at all. That went black instantly. I think I'm still going to add a little bit more, and we'll do the same to the others. And then we can leave these to one side and colour up the smaller amounts. dark violet, tangerine. Oh jeez, really? Excuse me a second. Alright, holding it very carefully this time. Tangerine. The last one's wine. Okay, I'll let these sit for an hour or so to degas, and then we'll pour them. Okay, the resin's had a good chance to settle, so we'll get it poured and into the pressure pot. We'll start with the black. If you're wondering what we're making, by the way, I have no idea yet. I was certainly right to mix up the fourth. Okay, now for the colours. I have no real idea of how exactly these colours are going to look once this all sets. It is going to be good fun finding out. Last one. Okay, I'm just going to let it sit here for a good hour, just to make sure that we do have enough resin in there and it doesn't, as it fills all the voids, it doesn't leave it short on the top. And then after that I shall put it in the pressure pot. I'll see you again in about 4 days' time. Right, well there we go. 4 days later, it seems to be nicely cured, so we can attempt to try and get it out of this thing. Now I don't think it's going to be very easy, so safety glasses on, gloves, and we'll start hacking away. Hey! Alright, we're getting closer. Just the base. Okay. I think that has just about got it. It looks pretty good, I think. It's certainly a successful casting, we could say. Now I want to put this on using a worm screw again. Now the original worm screw hole was on this side, so I'll get my template back out, mark out another hole, and then drill in again. I've just put my gloves on just to tighten it the last little bit, because this resin edge here is a little bit sharp and I don't want to cut my palm on it as I'm twisting this arm. Perfect, love it. Okay, nice and safely on the lathe. We're using tailstock as usual. This is quite a large mass of material, so we want to be as safe as we can possibly be. the first order of business is to start to clean off the sides and the base and give us an idea of what we're working with. As I mentioned before, I still don't really know exactly what we're going to be making, but I'm sure once we've cleaned off the sides, something will start to appear that will make us want to do something. Now, we are turning yew, which is a poisonous wood, so we are going to be using an air-fed mask throughout. I'm going to start off with a carbide, and we shall be turning at about 750 RPM. Now, turning resin is fun, but it's like wearing a bodysuit of plastic. It can get quite warm under there. Right, so the wood's starting to come through. It's looking quite interesting. The rougher cuts because we're using a carbide. I might try a ball gouge in a second and see how that does. But I'm liking the colours. I'm seeing a lot of the purple in the black. I'm not seeing any of the others yet that we put in. Right, I'll go and sharpen up my 3/8 inch bowl gouge and we'll give that a little spin. Okay, interesting progress. More of the wood is starting to come through. That's just below the surface there, so we'll see that next. Seems to be a little bit further before we get to the wood that's under there. I can't quite remember how deep that bit is, but I'm sure we'll find out as we go along. Now, I still haven't quite decided what this is going to be, but I know whatever it is, this is going to be the top. The majority of the wood is obviously at the base, and I think it would be a shame to have the majority of the resin at the top. I love the resin. I do love resin indeed, but I think the main focus of this, and with any resin project, really should be the wood itself. So I think I'm going to start just turning this corner over, cleaning up the base, and see what's going on there. Okay, it's going well. Now, as I started just to take away these areas here, certain images were popping into my head and ideas of and styles and designs and things like that. And when now we've stopped it, we can see at the top of this bit of wood here, you can see the remnants of it on the top, is going to be heading across this way. And I quite like that, and I think that wood kind of leading into the base, it'll happen again on this side, can give us the startings of an idea. Now, I like this curve coming in, but if we were to take this up probably to about there, here, and then the top of the piece angled in slightly and then hollowed out from there, it would make it a bowl, but quite an elegant one, I think. More of a statement piece. So I think I like that idea. I'm going to just quickly do a couple of passes on here just to reveal this wood, see if we can get an idea of how far we've got to go before we can get some wood across this base, which I would really love to see. And we'll see how it goes. Okay, so we can see the wood start to stretch across there, which is exactly what I wanted to happen, or at least wanted to find anyway. So I'm going to take this curve to about here, I think. I'll put a mark on there. And I want it up the sides, I think to about there. Now I'm going to join these two up with a curve, and then this top area, the top part of the bowl, is just going to be curved in slightly. It's going to be horrible to hollow out, and even worse to sand, but we'll not let that put us off. Okay, right, joining these two up with an internal curve. Okay, it's going well. I've just stopped there because I've noticed that this rim, or the top of the wood there, isn't at the top of the piece. So this would have to come down to meet that. And if we took this line up to here, then that wouldn't balance correctly in terms of style. So we're going to leave it where it is. Now, next stage is to start angling this side. I think we need to come in probably about 1 centimetre, which is about just under half an inch, something like that. We'll see how that looks, see if that's enough. Let's clear off some of the resin first. Okay, I like that shape. Now I want to try and reveal more of this wood here and here, so we need to take everything in a little bit. The slope's good, but we need to take it in by about another 5mm, something like that, just so we can reveal this piece of wood going around the sides, and hopefully a bit more of that one as well. This is really hard work. I tried to use the bowl gouge a couple of times, but it just kept on losing an edge almost immediately. But we are getting closer. We're exposing the wood a lot more, which is good. Still need to do a little bit more around there. Some of this wood looks like the resin's soaked into it quite a lot, which I've never really seen before. I'm not quite sure what was happening there, but we'll just deal with it. Now, I'm not sure if this is resin that's soaked into the wood and we're cutting wood, or if that's just a little bit of wood just below the surface. I seem to be chasing this, not knowing exactly which one it is. So we'll take it a little bit further and try and decide, but the shape I do like the shape. Okay, trying to chase this wood in, it's a bit like chasing a rainbow. I don't think we're ever going to quite get there, so I think I'm going to stop with what we've got. I'm sure it's going to look fine at the end. It's just, if I could keep on going all day and not get to where I'm completely 100% happy. And at some points you've got to just say, okay, right, I'm giving up. Okay, so that's fine. I think we just need to take in this curve just a fraction more. Actually, no, I'll leave it. I think it's all right. In that case, we've got to sort out the recess. That was exhausting. Right, I've put a reasonable size tenon in because I wanted to try and get some wood on the edge just to help grip this piece when we're turned it around and hollowing out. So I think that'll do for now. I'll set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it and I'll bring you back when we're done. Okay, sanding is done. Took quite a while, over half an hour, but hopefully it'll be worth it. I'm going to clean it off with some isopropyl. And it'll give us the first look at how this is going to seem when it's finished. Oh my goodness. The contrast between the wood and the resin really is quite astonishing. Okay, now I'm going to give this a quick coat of sealer once it's dried, and then we're going to go over with an abrasive paste. Okay, I said long enough to dry, so we're going to go on with a shellac sealer again. This will just give us a nice even surface for the abrasive paste and any finishes we put on the top. Right, once again we'll let this dry and then come back with the abrasive paste. Okay, all nice and dry. So back on with the abrasive paste. Now this will hopefully get rid of any of the fine scratches in the surface of the resin and the wood, and take our finish over 1,000 grit, or the appearance of over 1,000 grit, although I'm not sure there's a difference. Now if you can hear lots of rumbling and machines working in the background, I do apologise. They're doing some groundworks on the farm next door, and it's been vibrating the house for the last few days. Right, I've got my protective glasses on. We shall rub this in. That's really worked well. That's beautiful. Right, isopropyl alcohol again to get rid of any leftover grit. And then we'll come back on with a final finish. All nice and dry, so I'm going to go on with a wax finish this time. It's one I made up a little while ago. It's got beeswax, carryover wax and microcrystalline wax, and it's all in a linseed oil base. Nice liberal coating all over the surface. Now there's no solvents in this wax, so we don't need to let it flash off before we can rub it in. So we can do it straight away as soon as I've covered it. Right, okay, we'll buff this in, slowly increasing the speed. Okay, right, I'll turn this round and we can attempt to hollow it out. Okay, well, nice and safely turned round. Now, to start hollowing this out, I am going to go in with a Forstner bit to make it a lot easier and cut down a lot of the work. But before I do that, I just want to set a level for where the top of this piece is. As at the moment you can see that wood finishes a good 1/3 of an inch below the surface, and it's almost up to the top there. So we've got to get it all to the top. So I'm just going to come in here with a carbide, start trimming it back, and when I'm happy, then we can start hollowing out. Okay, that's pretty much done that. So I'll get out the Forstner bits and start hollowing out. Okay, that's a reasonable amount of the hollowing done. I have a reasonable range of Forstner bits, and that last one was about 100mm, so that's hopefully going to save us an awful lot of time. Now, one thing when I've turned it around, I seem to have developed about a 5mm wobble on the outside of this piece. I've checked the tenon, sorry, I've checked the recess, and everything's fine. And I don't honestly know how that's happened. There's a possibility that when you're sanding, the heat from the sanding can warp the resin. So that's the only thing I think it can be. So anyway, I'm going to move on. We're not going to worry about it. I'm going to start carrying on with the hollowing. Initially, I'm just going to take a square tipped negative rake carbide and just keep on working down the edges to expand this hole, and then we'll get it across the bottom as well, hopefully. But we'll take it very, very carefully, very slowly, because with this bit of a wobble, I don't want to have to get the speed up too high, just in case it catches on something and comes flying off. Right, okay, let's carry on. Okay, it's going well. We'll set the thickness now. You can see the difference we've got in the wobble from the edge, that edge to that edge. There's nothing I can do about it now apart from turn it around, recut the base. Given the trouble it gave me the first time round, I'm not going to be doing that, so we are just going to live with it and say it's an off-center bowl. Yeah, I know, it's a cop-out, but I'm going to stick with it. Okay, still going very well. In other words, we haven't broken anything yet. This thickness is nice on the sidewall. We've just got to start worrying about the transition from the base into the sides. I've got to decide whether I go for a curved transition or square it off in some way. And the main thing that's holding me back is the further the tool is over the edge of the tool rest, the more vibrations you get. So I think I've got another tool rest which will going to get me in a little bit closer. So we'll give that a go. I'm going to go back to the way I was. I'm desperately worried about not getting a catch. So we'll just carry on, persevere, and just take it very carefully. Okay, through blind panic and luck, I'm almost there. I've started to put a small curve on with the microcarbide hollower. So we've just got to get that little blending in there, and then we're done. A little bit of smoothing on the base, but apart from that, we are so close. Right, well, it's not perfect, but I don't think I've ever done better. Right, I'm just going to quickly sort out this edge, just a couple of last cuts on there, and then I think we're ready for the homeward stretch. Okay, looks good. I'll set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it, but I'll bring you back when it's done. That was hard work. Remind me to just do shallow plates from now on. So much easier to sand. Right, isopropyl alcohol. Let's get this dust off. It's amazing, beautiful grain in this yew, by the way. And I've been kind of preoccupied just coping with this piece, but the wood itself is just absolutely amazing. Right, we'll let this dry and then back on with the sealer. Okay, all dry. Nice healthy amount of the shellac sealer. And let this dry and then come back on with the abrasive paste. Okay, all nice and dry, so safety glasses on, ready for the abrasive paste. Looking better and better. Right, isopropyl alcohol, just remove any excess grit. And then eventually we can come back on with a final polish. I'll just let this dry first. Okay, back on with the wax again. Buff this in with it spinning, slowly increasing the speed. When you are buffing using a cloth with a hand, always support your wrist with your other hand, because if you do catch a finger in there or something like that, it could twist your wrist. Lots of things could happen, but if you've got a bit of a grip of your wrist with your other hand, then there's less chance of hurting yourself. Okay, right, let's tidy up, take this off and take a look at what we've done. Well, there we go. A yew and resin bowl. I'm really pleased with the way the resin came out. I haven't done a good sized resin pour for a while, and the resin looks absolutely beautiful. There's no air bubbles in there whatsoever. The pressure pot has really done its job. We've got some wonderful glimpses of the purple. I've still no idea where the other colours went, but happy that we've got the purple in there anyway. If you fancy having a go at resin, then there's always discount codes in the description below, and that gives you 10% off the Let's Resin products. I've been using them for quite a while now and they've never really let me down. It really is a good value resin. The yew itself, there's so much going on. It was really quite an old gnarly piece of wood, and we've got eyes and swirls and bits of all sorts going on all over the place, and I really couldn't be happier with the way this turned out. If you want to see more resin projects, then please let me know in the comments below. They are more time consuming and it does make for a longer video, which I apologise for, but there are lots of processes involved, so there's not an awful lot I can do about it. By the way, when I was doing the last bit of sanding, I didn't realise that my microphone had popped off my collar, so the audio for the last 5 minutes is distorted. Well, it's not distorted, but it's different to the rest of the video, so I apologise about that. But apart from that, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things. And if you leave a comment as well, then you are going to be entered into the next giveaway whenever that happens. Also, don't forget that there's 4 eBay auctions ending in the next couple of days. There's going to be a link in the description below to where you can find those. Depending on how they go, I may offer a few more as well. But apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.